Hi everyone, this is David Wicks with Thursday Night Live. This is week 7, and you should possibly have already watched part 1 of week 7, which was something that we recorded live, which was an interview with Sam Gliksman. And I'm going to actually go through the second part where I covered ISTE Standard 4 for you, and I think I can do a little better job of it in a recorded session, given that we were a little pressed for time after the interview. So we had originally planned to have the interview as the last piece, but Sam joined us early and he was at a conference, and I'm sure he was tired, ready to go to bed, and so we interviewed him first. Thanks everyone for the great questions that you asked, and then we covered the other material after that. And so I'm going to actually reverse this now and make this part 2. There weren't really any questions about the Explain a Technology Collaborative project. It looks to me like most groups are finding their way there. Make sure that if you have questions, you get those asked right away as we're moving closer to the deadline for that project. Also talk briefly about the Digital Citizenship Project and basically looking for um, some kind of a one-page document, pamphlet, poster, video, podcast that you create to talk to your um, learners or learners' parents about some type of a digital citizenship issue. And you can find that in the Standard 4 folder on our course. Also briefly mention the 5th project dealing with Standard 5. I'm simplifying that greatly, and we'll put something out this week, but be assured that that project will be something that will should take you definitely less than an hour to do, where you're basically being asked to join a professional learning community that exists online and just provide evidence of that. That's all I'm asking. I'm not asking you to actually contribute at this time, just having you investigate a professional learning community that you would like to join and joining it, and then letting me know about that. So I'll give you the details there. So let's get going with Standard 4. And in Standard 4, we're asking you as the teacher to promote and model digital citizenship and responsibility. So as a teacher, you should understand some of the issues that are related to our digital culture. What should we be doing with Facebook? What should we be doing with students texting? What should we be doing um, with YouTube videos or plagiarism? We want you as a teacher to then demonstrate legal and ethical behavior in your professional practices. So are you someone who cites your sources, who uses your cell phone appropriately? These are things that we're wanting to learn about and then be able to model. So the first performance indicator asks us to advocate, model, and teach safe, legal, and ethical use of digital information and technology. And within this, we're respecting copyrights, intellectual property, and appropriate documentation of sources. So one of the resources that could be used for this is Turnitin.com. And a second resource that would be related to this um, uh, topic is Common Sense Media. And so we'll take a look at both of those. So Turnitin.com is a resource that teachers can subscribe to, schools can, that would allow you as the teacher to upload a paper from a student and to be able to evaluate whether or not they're um, uh, plagiarizing that paper. Now, it's not 100% accurate, but it will do a really good job of highlighting parts of a paper that are possibly in question. So you can't just use it if it highlights something. You can't assume that that's been plagiarized. What you're looking for then is if they're part of the paper that's being highlighted and showing that it's not an original source, or it's not original writing, that the student has actually cited their sources appropriately. So it can save you as a teacher a lot of time from having to do this on your own. Teachers are frequently using things just like Google to copy and paste part of a student's paper into a search engine and see if they get any hits. And while that might work for some things, it doesn't probably work for situations where a student's copying a paper from a student who took the course from you in a previous term. With a tool like Turnitin, those papers would all be in a database, and they also would be ran against the papers being submitted. Now, this is not meant to be any kind of a punitive tool, so you're not trying to catch students plagiarizing. So a whole strategy that you might use would be one where you're actually having students submit papers as drafts to Turnitin.com, where they themselves can see the report and see that part of their paper is indicating that it's not original writing, and then they need to make sure they know what to do to cite their sources appropriately, or to rewrite that thinking that maybe they changed a few words and now it's their own writing, when actually it's still plagiarism. That will help them to learn what's right and wrong. So it's a interesting tool. It's not free. There are a number of free plagiarism detection tools out there, but I think you might find that you get what you pay for, and that these other tools may not be quite up to speed, and may actually let a number of things slide, such as what I mentioned earlier, where a student submits a paper and it actually it's just a copy of a paper that somebody else turned in to you or another teacher in a previous term, and it doesn't register in any database. So then the second resource that I mentioned was Common Sense Media, and this is one where you get a curriculum. There's a specific page for educators, and they really do help you to understand digital citizenship issues. And so things like internet safety, and being able to work in a mobile environment safely. And this would be a good resource, probably mostly for K-8, where you could find some um, uh, existing resources that will help you create your handout for that fourth project. Um, but this group also will do things like review movies and help teachers understand better some of the issues that they might face in their own classrooms in terms of how they're using media for learning. So now jumping back to our presentation and moving on, the second performance indicator has us addressing the diverse needs of all learners by using learner-centered strategies that provide equitable access to appropriate digital tools and resources. So here we're focused on possibly students with special needs, and what are we actually doing for those students. So here we have a couple of websites. The first is Web Accessibility in Mind, which is from Utah State University. And then I also want to briefly mention YouTube's closed captioning capabilities. Here we can see in the WebAIM page that they provide a number of resources for educators that will help you to know what to do for students with special needs. We could be looking at a student who's visually impaired, may have some kind of physical challenge, or maybe has a hearing disability. And you could learn from this resource, looking at some of their links that they provide, doing a search. You could learn how to better accommodate those students with the digital resources that you're providing. So I'd encourage you to take a look at this. and at least look at the introduction to web accessibility, and possibly then there's a video that explains accessibility. And this Section 08, Section 508 checklist would let you know what you need to do to make web pages accessible for students with disabilities. So that's a resource for us. Would also like to just highlight, what one company is doing. Google with YouTube, they've added captions and subtitles to videos, made this possible. So you can now, for the videos that you create or videos that you're watching, you could have captioning, and you can have the subtitles. So for those of you that are in world languages and you want to, see the French while you're watching it, that's now possible. So if we move over here, I've actually got this video is displaying French subtitles. If I move here and click on English, it will change those to English, but we can click on this little CC and turn captions off or turn captions on. And if we're
Je
watching
peux
it,
regarder des programmes en américain ou les informations russes. Quand je télécharge une vidéo sur
so we're
YouTube,
watching a
elle
French
peut être
video, but
regardée
we're
par les
seeing
gens du monde
English
entier, même s'ils ne
captioning,
parlent pas ma propre
okay,
langue.
and subtitles. So this is a possibility. Now they've taken this a step further, and I think you recognize this person. But here's a case where they are allowing me to create a video where I've got the ability to have it automatically convert my voice to text. And so I
I'm
want you to
using
see what
iMovie
happens
to
here.
record a little sample that I'm going to then import into YouTube and test Google's new auto captioning feature. Hope it works out. Have a great day.
So if you followed any of that or could hear it good enough, it didn't at all say what I said. But that's going to get better. I mean, we'll see that get better. If you followed Jeopardy this week, you saw where Watson was understanding what was being said by a person and was able to respond. And there were still cases where there were huge mistakes made that we would say, um, a small child would know the answer to that. But there were many more examples where it was amazing what the computer could understand and how quickly it could respond to those questions. So we'll see this improve, and when it does, then I think we'll be very happy with where we're at with captioning. One more resource here, and that's possibility in this particular performance indicator is that we're looking at people who are impacted by digital divide issues. So digital divide issues could impact a person because they can't afford technology. So, someone can't, a school district or an individual can't afford to have technology at home. That impacts us as teachers, is what we can do for those students. But also there could be situations where it's not necessarily a financial issue, but the resource is just not available. And so if we're talking about broadband internet connections, there's been a recent push by the federal government to say we need to make broadband access more widely available to people in rural areas, so they have the same access as people in urban areas. Now, you could also argue that there are people in the urban areas who can't afford the broadband access, and so they're also being disadvantaged. But this particular project, this national broadband map, is taking a look at what internet speeds are available in what area. So here we're looking at Omak, Washington, a rural area. Probably is the case, I don't know this for sure, but it's probably the case that if you live outside the city limits, as you live further and further out, your options for a broadband connection aren't very good. And so you can see within the area, you could get Quest communication and have speeds of 6 to 10 megabits per second for an internet connection, which is nice. And there's a second carrier, Verizon, that has 3 to 6 megabits per second. Now if we switch this to the zip code where SPU is, do that, and click find. We can see there are lots of options, including Comcast, which, we were looking at 6 to 10 for OMAC as being the tops. Here we have 50 to 100. So as a teacher, if you have access to Comcast for your internet provider, you might be at home sharing movie clips to students that are huge files, thinking that they all have access. And if you were working with students that maybe were in rural areas, let's say you were teaching an online class that included students that were in another county, possibly in Washington, you could be um, putting them at a disadvantage. And some of you might be saying where you're at right now, some of the things I'm sharing aren't playing very quickly. You do see where it is showing us here that this particular community has much greater access to broadband connectivity than a place like OMAC. And in this particular performance indicator, we want to talk about that the teacher is going to promote and model digital etiquette and responsible social interactions related to the use of technology and information. So what comes up frequently here is Facebook and whether or not teachers should use Facebook with students. And I think I'm of the opinion that Facebook is something that should be shared with your closest friends, and other people that you don't know so well shouldn't be on that list. And if we go out and look here um, at our web pages again, um, we have a case where a teacher lost her job because of Facebook. In this case, the teacher was asked to resign and she resigned. Had to do with a picture that was posted on her Facebook page that a parent saw. And while what she did wasn't illegal, um, I think as teachers, the lesson we take away from this is we need to be careful. We don't want to put ourselves in situations where um, uh, we where we personally or a friend of ours is sharing pictures that somebody might say are inappropriate for a teacher. And you could argue whose business is that, but I think we all know that um, in situations where we're talking about educating children, that people may um, overreact to situations, and it can just lead to trouble. So I think we just need to try to avoid those, and I think one of the ways to avoid that is to not be Facebook friends with students, not be Facebook friends necessarily with people you don't really know and don't really trust. And okay, then the other example here I think hits a little closer to home for us, and that's that a blogging teacher was suspended from teaching because of her blog. And you might immediately think, wow, I'm blogging, that's a problem. But I think what we need to point out here is you're blogging about your learning, you're blogging about how you're trying to become a better teacher and things that you're reflecting on, things that you might do to become a better teacher, or providing evidence that of good things that you're doing with your students. And so that's quite different than what this person did. I would say what you're doing is establishing a positive digital reputation. What this person is doing is tearing down. So in this, if I highlight something here in one post, she called her students rude, lazy, disengaged whiner. So I think I don't know what you can expect when you publicly post things like that about your students. I think you are asking for trouble possibly. Now, I would encourage you to continue to reflect on your learning, how you can become better as a teacher, and the great work that your students are doing. Show positive examples of things, and show interventions that you're taking that are making a difference. And I think anyone that would look at that would come away seeing you as someone who is a reflective teacher and someone who's trying to get better at his or her craft. And I think that's all going to work to your benefit. Finally, here there's a performance indicator where we're asking you to develop and model cultural understanding and global awareness by engaging colleagues and students of other cultures using digital age communication and collaboration tools. And a couple of examples here would be ePals, which several of you have mentioned in your resource sharing, and then also through a tool called Ning, which is a way to create your own social network. Some educators have come up with a website that's called Global Education. So let's quickly take a look at those. So here's ePals, and ePals is they claim to be the world's largest K-12 learning network. So what their role is they try to help match um, schools together who are wanting to collaborate. You should also know then that they are actually going to assure that the people on the other end are who they say they are and help facilitate your interaction. You can also look at tools like the Global Education Collaborative, and in this case, you could find yourself, you could join this for free, and you could search the list of members. You can see their map of where everyone is, but you could search the list of members and begin to find uh, people that you'd want to collaborate with. So to wrap things up, I just wanted to point you to the resources that I shared about Sam. Um, he is the founder of the iPads in Education Ning site. So he set up a social network where educators can talk about issues related to iPads and other tablet technologies. And then also consider either following uh, Sam Gliksman on Twitter, or know that you can go to his Twitter site and see resources that he provides related to mobile learning, related to the use of iPads in education. So here's what that looks like. This is his Twitter page here. And so if you go to just twitter.com, and then his username is twitter.com/Sam Gliksman, would get you to this page where you could see the things that he's tweeting about. And if you watched the previous recording or participated live with this, you might remember him saying that kids are more likely to own a cell phone than a book. And he followed through. This morning he posted the link to that resource that he shared. And I followed that up by posting back that even though kids do own cell phones, 25% of them have smartphones. So, a large percentage of those kids are using regular cell phones, which wouldn't have, the same types of resources like the ability to access the web. And he followed that up by letting me know that within 18 months, it's predicted that half the kids will have smartphones available to them. So as we look towards the possibility of mobile learning in the classroom, it becomes more and more likely that students will provide their own devices if we get to some kind of a level where, let's say 75% of them come with the devices. Then it's much more likely for a school to be able to help those families who possibly can't afford them. I just wanted to make sure you saw his iPads in Education site. Here it is. And so I'm signed in here. I'm a member of his group, his professional learning community here. And so I can see what other educators are um, uh, their thoughts about the use of tablets or iPads in education. And if you would come to this page, you'd have the ability to join it if you want to do that. So with that, let's wrap up here. But if you've got any questions or comments about Standard 4 or any of our projects, please let me know. Post those questions in the discussion board, or if you have a personal question related to your grade or another issue, love to chat with you by email, by phone, in person. I've met a number of you personally and enjoy visiting with you and seeing how I can help you. So until we talk again, have a great day, and let's continue to do the great work you're doing in the course. Bye bye.